Hello, everybody. It is halftime of Game 2 of the NBA Finals, and you, instead of watching 15 minutes of commercials, have decided to watch the halftime show. First thing we're going to do for a late-night show that only lasts 15 minutes is set our timer for 15 minutes. Boom. So we will be back right at the start of the third quarter. I'm Greg Iwinski, television writer, bon vivant, two-time dad, and this has been an interesting game. The Celtics have played what you might call poorly. And Luka has played well. And the Celtics are up by 3 at the half. Really interesting that, for the way this game feels, I think to a lot of people who are watching a lot or interested in narratives, it feels like, Boston's playing bad. They've only made a couple threes. Well, both sides have only made a couple threes. The Celtics have made 3 and the Mavs have made 4. So for a league that's really about putting up 43s a game and hoping that you make 15 to 20, this has not been a 3-dominated game. It's been a game where Luka has had an incredible game, Kyrie's been okay, and Jason Tatum has not yet shown up. And I've talked about it before. I've talked about it with friends and fellow Suns fans. Jason Tatum does feel like the East Coast Devin Booker, the same way that the Minnesota Timberwolves feel like the cold weather Suns. There are things that we recognize. Tatum needs to take over. You cannot talk about Kobe Bryant being your mentor over and over again and not take over. Where are the shots? Where is the pulling the jersey? Where is the fist pump? Where is the forgetting about a trial and pretending it never happened? Don't do that, Jason Tatum. Do the other stuff and be like Kobe Bryant. And then maybe 20 years from now we'll all be trying to get your shoes on eBay to play basketball in. But very close game. And let's hold on. I got to get the narrative book. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay, got my big book of NBA narratives, and it looks like, hold on, finals. Okay. It looks like, yes, the Celtics can go with the narrative of we played very poorly, but we're still up 3 and we're the better team, so just play better, and you are going to win. Cool. Mavericks. Sorry, I got to go to the... No, that's pretend to be injured before the game. Okay, no, not that. There we go. Okay. This Mavericks can go with we're playing great and we're still in this even though we're on the road in a incredibly hostile stadium. So, great to do. Great narratives for both teams available. Both of them can say that they're going to win and they've had a great half and have really held it together. You do think that in the NBA Finals, at home, with a lead at halftime, having had their stars not play well, the odds would say that the Celtics can win this game. Not the way they won Game 1, but they still can win this game. Thank you to one of our commenters. Jason Tatum is a family man. Jason Tatum is a dad. You know how there's a wife guy? I don't know if you've heard of this. Maybe you're not a Zennial or whatever is younger than me. A wife guy is a guy who's always talking about his wife, but he's like, that's the only thing he's got going on is being like, my wife, my wife, my wife. And not in the cool Borat way that's so fresh. Jason Tatum is a dad guy. Because and look, I guess I do have a son, I forgot about him for a second. If I had a son and I was doing something cool, I'd bring my son too. That'd be great. Of course I would bring him. So I would bring that guy, I would bring my son with me. But he brings his son with him so much. Him, Julius Randle, Steph Curry, kind of a dad guy, but Steph Curry's, he's in his own thing. You kind of feel like the kids are more like, he knows they're there, he knows you'll like them. A little bit different. But Randle and Tatum are both very strong dad guys. Their kids are at the games. I don't know if you remember the shot where Julius Randle got knocked out of the three-point contest and then had to spend the rest of the three-point contest consoling his toddler son because he didn't win the three-point contest. And there is maybe no better example of what it is to be a dad than being in an event that is celebrating you and is about you having fun with your friends, and you spend a lot of it stopping your kid from crying. So, a big dad guy, also has the most biracial hair on earth, which we have talked about before. We are going to talk about actually in our next game, Game 3, we're going to talk about the Greg Iwinski hair matrix in terms of NBA players and their haircuts and what their haircuts should be. So let's get to some of our segments. We did have a guest who unfortunately was not able to make it because of scheduling issues. You know how it is. Our booking department is me and my thumbs texting people. But one of the more interesting things about this game is our ref. We've actually gone through. This is logically what would happen if you look at a ref every game. We've gone through most of the refs, and we're now at the point where we are looking not just at the refs but at the alternates, because it's an all-star ref crew. So we're looking at some of the alternate refs. Tyler Ford, he is the alternate in case something happens and Tony Brothers' knee explodes, or or he gets hit for saying something rude about a player's relative. So Tyler Ford, he's in his 9th season. He's born in 1985, so shout out to the elder millennials. Born in Ohio, went to high school in Ohio, and then went to college at Ball State University for his undergrad and his MA at Ball State. So, ball so hard. Question on Instagram, Joe Mazzulla is a Jesus guy. Interesting way to put that. What do you think his halftime speech sounds like? I think he's... Joe Mazzulla has a lot of interesting coach qualities, and kind of he's a very unique coaching style. So I don't know what he's saying at halftime other than going over to Jason Tatum and being like, you are good at basketball. Just do that. Just be good at basketball and we're done. And to Jaylen Brown a little bit. And he's telling Jrue Holiday, thank you so much for coming to the team. So I think they were probably relaxed in there. But let's talk a little bit more about Tyler Ford. If you are an elder millennial, he is a ref that is your age. Now he is he's refed for 9 years. He was in the G League before that. He plays golf, which I think all refs are required to do. He was the AD of intramural sports at Purdue, which I didn't know that intramural sports had ADs, but that's very cool. But one of the things that's interesting about his bio is that he says his favorite TV show is Yellowstone. Why is this important? It is important because what it means is these bios are not, in fact, what we guessed in an earlier show. These bios are not from like 10 years ago, and they've never been updated because some of the people's references, the older refs, their references are very dated. They're like, The Pelican Brief is my favorite book, and you would think that they would update them. So there was a theory on the halftime show that these were old bios. Tyler's favorite show is Yellowstone, not that old. That means that definitely brings up the window of the bios to something closer. Favorite app, Netflix. Fine. There's a level of basic answer here. Fine. Most like to visit Ireland. Fine. Bucket list, play golf at Augusta. Cool. It's all just dad stuff. It's dad stuff. Favorite book, Power of a Positive Team. He was an assistant intramural director. So, Favorite movie, Remember the Titans. We got Tyler Ford lined up. The one thing I will point out is favorite meal, steak. Steak is not a meal. Steak is one food that goes in a meal. That's like saying favorite food, beans. No. Shredded cheese is my favorite meal. No. Steak is something that goes with stuff. You know how I know this? Because when we went back with other refs, you know what they said? Steak and a good bottle of red. That's a meal. That's a meal. You do put that on. You put on some Luther Vandross. Bro, you are getting down. Who did say that? Let me look that up. That was, I believe, was that Courtney? Oh, that was Bill Kennedy. His favorite meal was filet mignon and a good bottle of red. And his favorite music was Luther Vandross, which means he's getting down. Tyler Ford, just steak. I'm going to watch an episode of Yellowstone and eat one steak on a plate by itself. Tyler, you're better than that. Also, I don't know how much the assistants get paid. Maybe he's not in filet mignon pay yet. I'm not sure. But he seems cool. Hopefully, when we're old men, we'll yell at him the way we yell at the refs we have now. Gotta say, I was thinking about this because I know we only have a couple shows left. At minimum 3, at maximum 6. And I was thinking about what commercial should we be talking about? Which are the few commercials to bring back in? We've gone through a lot of commercials that are bad. No Flex Zone is one. The weird NBA Finals one that seems like it was edited by an AI. A lot of different not good ads. I will say that one of the ones that is very interesting to me is The Strangers. I think it's called The Strangers. It's one where one of the Fannings, is in a weird room surrounded by horrible monsters, and a bunch of people have decided to live there for some reason because there's rules. And you think, wow, this is very M. Night Shyamalan. And you're half right. Because the ad's like, guess what? It's Shyamalan. And at the very end they say, Shyamalan's daughter made this movie. So it was a really interesting way to kind of slip it in. Obviously, the official position of our show is that brown nepotism is fine and white nepotism is bad. So, but this is stretching it to try to pretend you're your dad first and say, ooh, Shyamalan, you know our name. Not the person you're thinking of, it's the kid. That's like, oh, it's Ford Coppola, comma, little letters, Sophia. You don't do that. Just say, one of Queen Amidala's handmaidens from episode 1 is now directing and making movies. Yeah. So we have a couple more spots for commercials that we're going to get to talk about. There are some very bad ones out there, but really I think that they have started to filter some out for the finals. I think a month and a half of ads was maybe too much. I'm not sure. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in Instagram. We got a couple Instagram comments. We got a couple on YouTube as well. Twitter, our tweeters not commenting, which is fine. I mean, I'm on Twitter a lot too. I will not be calling it X because I think that's lame as hell. So I won't be doing that. Now, going forward in this game, one of the things that I think we should look for before we get to an actual prediction for how the game turns out is the idea that how hurt is Luka going to become in this game? Because before the game, he was doubtful, questionable, hurt. We don't know. He's got a thoracic issue. Didn't even think that we had a thorax. Maybe they just only have it in Europe. I'm not sure. But his thorax were, oh man, this guy's hurt so bad. Hasn't looked hurt. Dropped 23 points in the first half. Again, this guy, Luka Doncic, is hurt the way your boyfriend is too busy to help you with things around the house. Oh, I can't vacuum my thorax. Oh, but I can play Call of Duty for 4 hours. What's up? That's Luka. Luka got that going on. And lots of men in their 20s pretend to be hurt when it's something they don't want to do, like lose a game. So we'll see what happens. I mean, they could very well win this and reset reality. Let's talk about, quickly, because we only have a little bit of time left, where the narratives will stand depending on how the second half goes. One of the rules of our show, obviously, is that all objective reality resets at the end of each one of these games. Much like a presidential primary resets who's going to be president or not in our minds. If Boston wins, even though Luka gets, 50 points, the narrative is, it's over. It's over. Game 3 is do or die. If you don't win game 3 is, you go down 3-0. But, we get into these narratives, even before the number narratives, we get into they did win, even though he didn't play well, even though Starks didn't hit, blah, 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 didn't hit threes. They won. They are good. Yeah. If Dallas wins, I think this is one of the few times where you cannot just rip one out of the book and say, here's what the narrative is. Because if it's 1-1, I think people will still have questions about the Mavs. Maybe that's just my bias coming through. But yes, thank you to whoever said, someone who obviously knows me as a Suns fan. The last time I thought 2-0 at the finals was over. That means you don't know me that well, because even at 2-0, I was sure the Suns were going to make me wish I was dead. And they did. There is no point at 2-0 up where Suns fans thought it was over. You know what they thought? We got exactly this far before. And guess what happened? We lost to the Bulls. So it could happen again. You know what? I remember walking out of Game 2 and thinking, I just hope we win one more game so we get farther than we got last time. We didn't do that. Narrative-wise, let's talk about the numbers before we're done, and an unqualified prediction, which is obviously if it's 1-1, it's a juicy game, and Dallas can go in and go up 3-1 and make this crazy, blah, blah, blah. And if it's 2-0, then we get to have a nice game in Dallas that is a must-win, and so Luka can score like 75 points and hope the bench helps him out. So, still so early that we don't know. But, you could... I feel like the more exciting one is obviously 1-1, but even at 2-0, we still get a great Game 3 because it becomes can Dallas figure this thing out? And their role players play so much better at home. You're going to hear it over and over again. These guys, PJ Washington and these guys, are going to just go nuts. at home. So maybe that we should switch the narrative and say Boston has to win this game. This half is a must-win for Boston because if they go to Dallas 1-1, they might come back and make Game 5 an elimination game against them at home. That's my wild call. I'm going to say Boston wins it barely. Luka still goes off. Jason Tatum, it's going to be Jaylen Brown. I'll probably be wrong, but we're out of time. Let's watch the second half. See you next game. Thanks for watching.